Okay, so when we feel overwhelmed, this is where the weekly review really helps. So let's take a big deep breath. And even if you don't have that dashboard printed off or can't print it off right now, just use a blank piece of paper. And if you want, draw columns or something in the days, just do a rough sketch right now. And then working through the whole process, then later today, you can maybe put it into a planner or figure out your dashboard. But really, if this is something that's very new and very unfamiliar, then actually starting with a blank piece of paper is not a bad idea at all. And just let it be a loose collection. And kind of all over the place. Make some kind of box or column or something for the different days, and just let your mind associate and brain dump and figure things out as you go. Okay. It's not something what you do just right and then it's magic. It's just a thinking, and it's just a thinking and writing things down exercise. So however that ends up looking, it's going to be helpful. Okay. So just look at your vocations, and that's why I print them out on the other side of my interval plan. So my interval plan, holding this up, my interval plan lives on my clipboard, and actually it has my vocations right down there. But I also have in simplified organization, you work through writing vocation statements, kind of like not quite mission statements, but directional statements. So I have those on the back of this plan. So I can just quickly review those. So just look at your projects for the interval. Look at those tasks. Look at your vocations and say, oh yeah, I remember doing this. Okay. Then, and just looking, right? So you haven't even done anything except look at them yet. You can cross that off, or I fill in the bubble. Do a 5-minute brain dump about last week or anything on your mind or that you find in your notes. So that's what this space here is. And if you there's like free association brain dump space at the bottom, but there's also a place for notes, and that might be, you might have grocery list, just kind of put stuff down. To-do items, you can have a little separate spot for keeping track of those so they don't get lost in the brain dump. So this is the sheet. The weekly review process sheet is what we're filling in right now. There we go, it focused. So we're on item number 2, where we're just doing a 5-minute brain dump. And if you don't have that sheet, just follow along with the instructions in a blank sheet of paper. If you had 2 blank sheets of paper and your calendar, then you're good to go. Okay. Brain dump for next week. Looking, and it's also helpful. So start by thinking about this last week. Good things, bad things about this last week. And I don't know about you, but whenever I start always with what I didn't do. It's just the way my brain works, and I know I'm not the only one. So I didn't do this. I didn't do this. But we can't stay there. So we're brain dumping. I personally am starting off with a list of what I didn't do this week, and you can't, that's part of the brain dump, and that's good. We're evaluating last week. But if we evaluate always in negative mode, it's like putting ourselves in handcuffs and making it even more difficult to move forward. So go ahead and get those out, and then think about what you did get done this week. What were your top 3 successes this week? Include that in your brain dump. And as you look at what you didn't do, we can also be thinking about, why is that? Was I missing something? Did I not understand something? Was it not clear enough? Is there some way I could add a support somehow? Accountability or something, some way to add support so that I move forward better next week. Thank you, Jen. Okay, so we're brain dumping. Yay! Dawn got all her steps this week. She beat me. Good. Good. Okay. So we're going to move on. Some brain dump about last week. Then review the calendar and note things that need to be done. So, oh, that mouse isn't plugged in. Okay. Yay for morning time every day. Awesome. Okay. So I am going to miss the chat here for a few minutes as I look at my calendar. So we're going to look at our calendar for this next week and say, okay, based on what's on my calendar this next week, what needs to happen? And my calendar looks super empty. And that's because I have some turned off. Better turn those back on. Okay. So I need to check that I have chicken in the freezer because I have chicken on the menu plan for Monday with people over. So I better double check the amount of chicken that I have in the freezer today. I'm going to Costco anyway today, right? So I'm actually going to make myself a today column here. Double check chicken in freezer. I see I have a recurring park day event and those are actually over. So I'm just going to delete that. This and all following. I see, let's see, I have a few book club meetings coming out. So I need to make sure I note what I need to read for my book clubs. Give myself due dates for that. So we're just looking. I'm going to come see what's happening over here at this video again. So I just renamed my weekly overview the weekly dashboard. It's actually pretty much the same. And so in simplified organization, it's still called the weekly overview. And it's very similar setup to this, a little bit different, but same idea. When I start editing and revising simplified organization, it will be called weekly dashboard. Yeah. So yeah, look at when you're leaving the house. Like, what do I need to have to leave the house this week? Let's see. I just talked to our piano teachers. Let me double piano teacher last night and got our piano schedule ironed out. But yeah, that is on the calendar for when we start there. So there you go. Co-op starts Friday. I need to prep for my class. Yes. Let's see. the vocation section. So that's an older version. And what I have used that for right now, I have that on mine. I have that on my interval plan. And that's just to remind myself of what those vocations are. So they kind of get in my brain. And I might put like what my focus is this week, where it's not even a task so much as, you know, under homemaker, it might be smile at the kids, little things like that, where it's just a little reminder of the focus that I want to have for that vocation. It's not necessarily a check-offable something, but just a reminder of, okay, smile more, or smile into eyes. That sort of thing. So, so we've looked at our calendar now and put some tasks, preparations, updated our calendar, like, oh yeah, I forgot to put that on my calendar. So that's what we're doing. Took some notes based on what was on our calendar. I think I'll write one more down. Okay, so check that one off. Do you have what you need for meals? I kind of mentioned that one on mine because that's on my, I keep my menu plan on my calendar. So do you have a meal plan? I do. I make my meal plan for 6 weeks during my prep week. But if you menu plan every week, your weekly review is when you need to make sure you have a menu plan. If you don't already, then that needs to be part of your weekly review. And your weekly review might take a little bit longer that way, but this is when you make sure you know what people are eating. So if that needs to be written on your weekly list, on your weekly dashboard, put those meals on. Mine's on my calendar, so that's where I see it. But it needs to be somewhere where you'll see it, where you have a plan, and then you'll see it, hopefully with enough time to do things. So there we go. So we make sure we have a menu plan. And so we're kind of jotting down a grocery list as we go. Okay. How are the interval projects progressing? So now we go back to that interval plan that we just glanced at and say, all right, what were my top 3 projects this week? And this is really where we're narrowing down. We're not expanding. We've done the brain dumping. So we think of a million things we could be doing, some different new ideas for different projects. We're bringing ourselves back to what we're focusing on and saying, okay, no, not all of these other things. What am I really working on this interval? Oh, nailing the new school year routine. Right. How did I do this last week? Not so good. So what is my most important one way I'm going to do that this week? Because, you know, there are like 10 things a day that go into making that school routine happen. Well, what am I going to commit to this week for really building that? Because that nailing the school year routine is an interval project, not like I am going to be perfect at that right from the starting gate. We're giving ourselves an interval to get there, right? So that's where thinking of it as a project helps me, because otherwise I would say, okay, this is who I'm going to be starting Monday. And it just doesn't work that way. This is where my focus is going and where I'm going to be intentional this interval and gradually improve in over the course of the interval. So, I need to make sure I'm not on the computer during school hours. So, that's a very bad habit that I need to break. And so that's what I'm going to be super intentional with next week. That one piece there, because that one is going to make all the others easier. So, so then I started thinking, okay, how could I make that happen? Just resolve is not really quite enough, because I've tried that before and it didn't work. I need a timer reminder. And I think I can actually ask my husband to set up something on the router where my computer gets cut off from the internet at a certain time. And I've done that before. I did it a few years ago and it worked to break a bad habit that I had, just time-wise. So I'm for this next week, we're going to cut my computer, the laptop internet off. And so I'll give myself a 5-minute reminder that that's happening on my phone. So there we go. That's my action plan moving forward. One focused piece for this big project that has a lot of moving pieces, but what's the one that I'm really going to zero in on this week and make happen? That's the one. Right. But it depends because my computer is only my computer and the kids have a different one. So that doesn't affect us. And we can turn it off just to my laptop so I can still have my phone because, we pull music or whatever. So yeah, totally going to be a new person. I know that's always the plan. And then that's why it doesn't ever work. Okay. So we're looking at those projects and deciding on the one thing that will move us forward. Did that. Next, what are the 3 big things that need to happen next week? So if you're in Convivial Circle, these are your top 3 goals for the week. And this is when we're thinking about them and setting those and then writing them down. So one of those for me, because I made that intention about the project, that the consistency project, which is big, I made a smaller commitment for it. And that's going as one of my 3 weekly goals. So the weekly goals are not another extra thing. They are, what am I really zeroing in on and what's important to me this week? So that's going to go on my list right here. Weekly goals. So, and I'm going to use the goal formula that I recommend there and say, I will stay off my laptop between the hours of 7:30 and 11. I've looked at my time budget. I know that's when it needs to be. So that I am consistent with school. The so that helps remind us that these aren't just random things. These have a purpose that we want more than, checking email. So that I will start school on time, basically. That's what that's going to help with. And then I put 3 little bubbles under mine to say, what do I need? What are the 3 big things that will make this happen? So I would put on there, following the timer, setting an alarm not only for a reminder that I need to get off, but also I need to reset my morning time. So I'm thinking about those starting the day things and what do I need to do to make this happen? There we go. Okay. Oh, I'll put that back up. So I can write the goal here and then 3 things here. I like the bubbles. Oh yeah, the running. Yeah, I was writing 9 goals. Yeah. 3 goals, each that have 3 specific things to do to help make them happen. So, and of course, a lot of times goals have more steps than that, but we're trying to really narrow down and select the top priorities because that's how we focus in. There are always a million things to do, but we're not trying to do a million things first. We're zeroing in and doing what's most important. And then we can, do the other things as we have time or capacity, or they become urgent. But this is the reminder in front of our face of what's most important. There you go. Drink more water. So, okay, drink more water. That's a great one. I'm highly in favor of drinking a lot of water personally, but if that's the goal for the week or the area you want to grow in for the week, get specific. And that can either be drink X amount of ounces or X number of water bottles. And it could also be even more specific than that would be drink a glass of water first thing in the morning, because then you're giving yourself a time and an amount. And then you can build a habit that way when it's anchored to a trigger. Or it might be make sure I have my water bottle before starting morning time, and I drink that. And like when I'm done with morning time, I have to be done with the water. So where we're tying in the action to our day is going to help us have more success than if we keep it as drink more water, which is still kind of vague. It's a good thing. And yes, water bubbles, that helps. But especially if we can tie, and yeah, that's on mine too. There's a lot there, but well, what did I put 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there are 8. It looks like a lot. So I have that on my health thing as well. Right, but having those goals that are tied to times really helps. There you go. Awesome, Jennifer. And if you can't think of a third thing for that project, that's totally fine. We're just choosing the top 3. So we don't want to choose more than a top 3 for each one. There's 2. That's awesome because that's doable, right? So you want a copy like that has my chores in it and everything. These are my sweep and smile things. These are my health goals. Yeah, it says 12K, which is for steps up there. And I think I got like an average of 5 or 6K this last week. So I didn't check those off. Well, yesterday was the only day last week where I got to check that one. But yeah, it is as an editable PDF. So if you go to the ask a question, well, there's a PDF where all of these are blank and you can fill it in. Or there's a document or a pages so that you can edit it in your word processor. Okay, sure. I'll give you mine. How about I send it out in the follow-up email so I can turn it into a PDF and send it as an example. And do you know what I'll do? I'll write that, since I said I would do that, I will write that down. Okay, so we talked about what the big 3 things are for our week. Then we're going to check and update that task management system. So if you have that already, now is the time to look at it and see what's coming up. And okay. There we go. Okay. Yes. So I will send that. If you have a task management app or list or tickler file or whatever you have, or right now, maybe you just have your brain dump notebook, you can flip through that and say, all right, what are the things that need to happen this week? Those little things, they're not really a big project. But I want to give myself credit if I do these things. So, folding the laundry might go on there, even though it's a routine. Whatever it is that you want to put in front of your face as you really should do this and not procrastinate. Or you really should give yourself a check mark for that. So, this is where I had make the eye appointments. if there's a particular errand that you need to run, maybe doing grocery shopping at all, that can go on there. Anything that is just something you should do that you want to keep in front of your face and also give yourself credit for doing. So on the dashboard, this is where that goes. These bubbles here are for writing down small tasks to do or less, and you don't have to use them all. You probably shouldn't use them all, but I was just being realistic for myself here. So last week I think I had 3 over here, and then I used these ones to write down errands that I had to run because I had more than usual in different ones. I had to go to the bank. I had to pick something up. So I put the places I needed to go over there and a few things like eye appointment over here.